Atheism is confusion?
No, it's not. Atheism is not confusion. Atheism might lead to confusion, be a product of confusion, or both, but it is not itself confusion. Overeating is not bad health. It leads to bad health, it might be a product of bad health, but overeating itself is not bad health. I know this sounds nitpicky, because it is nitpicky, in colloquial speech. Philosophy is about precise language. We get to be nitpicky. But I've already seen this video, and I know that he means that atheism leads to and comes from confusion, so I know that it is actually nitpicky. Really, I think I just like to hear myself talk sometimes.
But you can examine the way they think?
Yes, you know how I think. Enough to examine it accurately and come to conclusions about my ideas without directly asking me about it, and then confidently spew this out to the world.
And the way they reason? And you start to see it as a symptom of something larger. You go, well, what is it? And some people just kind of colloquially say, well, it's the rejection of God. And that's true.
If you have a lowly human honestly wanting to find out if a God exists or does not, and an infinitely powerful God who can reveal himself to them or not, the person at blame is not the lowly human. If an all-powerful God wants to have a relationship with you, it will. If not, it won't. There are no impediments or obstacles for such a being. None.
That's probably a way to frame it. That's probably a simple way to summarize it or give a headline to it. But when we get into the paragraphs of the chapter called Rejection of God, and you examine how people think, well, what's the most common, aside from fallacies, there's a form of a fallacy that's common when we talk to these people. And what I find, at least in my conversations, is that the common mistake or blemish in their thinking ends up being categorical. There's like a categorical problem, that they have a problem properly mapping out categories and subcategories. It starts with the assumption of materialism, for example.
As we learned in my Atheism Explained, a Response video, most atheists are not materialists or philosophical naturalists, and the ones who are usually methodological naturalists, which means that they haven't been presented with anything non-natural. Everything they see is natural, at least in their view. Let's say there is a God. Now, is this God natural or supernatural? In other words, what we are asking is this: granting that there is a God, is this God a member of the universe or not? I know evangelical Christians are already yelling at their screens, no, he exists outside the universe. But let's actually break this down. Granting that there is a God, is this God in existence, which is what the universe is, or not? Because the universe is defined as what we observe in existence, God must either be in the universe or not exist. The universe is not a location or area. It is not a space you can go in and out of. The universe is synonymous with existence. This use of universe is not strange or unusual, although physicists like to define the word universe to mean spacetime. The use of the word universe to mean more than just spacetime is not new to philosophy. And come on, there are only so many words. The universe is what is. It is the summation of what exists. So if God exists, he must be a part of the universe. Therefore, if God exists, he must be a part of nature. In more Taoist terms, staying true to my heart as an anti-metaphysical, classical, Zhuangziyan Taoist, everything must ebb and flow with the Tao. If God exists, he is a part of the Tao. There is only what is, and there is only not what isn't. If God is, he just is. And if God is, he is just an expression of the Tao. In more scientific terms, if we find out that God exists, the first thing we'll do is stick him in a test tube and find out what he's made of.
The starting assumption that all is matter.
Not necessary or common to atheism. Most atheists would reject this. Most atheists believe in some sort of spiritualism. This is a simple fact, and if you knew what you were talking about, you wouldn't make this mistake, and, more importantly, base your entire video around that mistake. Your entire video, likely your entire catalog of videos, I'll predict, falls apart when you realize this is a mistake and not a truth.
The starting assumption that all is matter is already a demonstration of a flawed category system.
Hey, atheist, you assume everything's natural?
No, I don't. Even if I did, you have no indication that I did based solely on me calling myself an atheist or holding the position of atheism.
Nuh-uh, you're a philosophical naturalist.
Even if that's true, you have no idea if it's true or not just by me being an atheist.
No. If you don't believe in God, you must be a philosophical naturalist.
No. No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Then you think about what categories are. Now, it makes sense if you miscategorize things, then the conclusions from that miscategorization just keep building on, almost like an error when you build a house. You start with one fundamental category or error, let's say a measurement, and then you start trying to build on that, and then you get more errors over time. It's like a cumulative.
Oh, Christianity. Yeah, you're right. When you start off assuming the Bible is true, the errors keep piling up. And then you have to find some way to reconcile the unreconcilable. And then you have to choose either your faith or reality.
And we look at them, and they're already so far down the line. I mean, that guy was so cooked yesterday.
Golly, that guy was so cooked yesterday. He was so cooked. He was so rizzed, guys. He got so phantom taxed. That's what happened. He got slayed. He got cook-pilled. Stop using teen slang. You have a gray beard and a house. You aren't a kid. We know you aren't a kid. We know you aren't in high school or college. Just talk like a normal person.
God bless him, he was only 20-something.
Yeah, and you aren't. So stop acting like you're also 20-something.
But it doesn't matter. You look at the Beaver Boy, same thing. He's in his 40s, totally cooked. And it's just too easy for me to say, well, it's just the rejection of God, which is true. It's the rejection of God, which is the spiritual element.
Hey, atheist.
What is it now?
You reject God.
No, I don't. I simply don't accept the proposition he exists.
See? You reject God. See? If you were honestly seeking, you'd find him.
Oh yeah? Can I see the evidence then?
There is no evidence. It's about faith, moron.
Okay, so what do I need to do to find him then?
Oh, it's easy. Just go to church every Sunday, follow a Bible study plan, listen to evangelicals and preachers without thinking about what they're actually saying, take the Bible as absolutely true and flawless without doubting it, and pray every night until you brainwash yourself into accepting my claim.
I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Sinner! You just want to sin. You don't want the responsibility or the accountability of Christianity. Dishonest demon, liar, sinner, creepo. You deserve hellfire.
The spiritual element, the fogginess, clouds the intellectual element.
What fogginess? I don't see any fogginess. I think you see fogginess, but I don't see any myself. The issue is clear from where I'm sitting. You believe something with no justification. You need to convince yourself and your audience I'm the one who needs to justify my position so you can sidestep that issue. I might only have one eye, but it clearly works better than the two of yours.
But even if you just looked at the intellectual for a second, you look at categories, that's the way we piece together knowledge. Knowledge is theory-laden, and if you were to visualize it, you'd have a whole maybe section of main categories. And under those main categories, we craft or isolate subcategories. And the reason Christianity, in particularly orthodoxy, is superior is because our metaphysics has proper categorization.
Yeah, sure, buddy. You have super proper categorization, and I am just stuck in the mud with my bad categorizations. I have shit metaphysics, so I'm stupid head, and you have great metaphysics, so you're a genius. Remember when I said I was an anti-metaphysical classical Zhuangziyan Taoist? What I mean is twofold here. Firstly, I do not see the Tao as metaphysical, nor do I believe in any of the Taoist gods or Taoist hells that were forged in later ages and cannot be found in the original texts, except for in parables. But secondly, I also mean that I reject metaphysical claims. As I explained before, everything is natural, and because of what physics means, everything is also physical. If God exists, he is also physical. even if the physics he operates on are entirely different from other forms of physics. This is just a matter of the definitions of words, although this also dives pretty deeply into word games, so I don't expect to change anyone's minds here. Words are made up and language is just a tool anyway. But as I was saying, I don't think any metaphysical things can exist. Things are just physical, or conceptual, or whatever, but they cannot be beyond physics. Quantum mechanics is not metaphysics, it is physics. Whatever lies beyond quantum mechanics, the same. If God lies beyond quantum mechanics, same. God the physical. Where does that fit in the Trinity? Or, I guess, quatrity.
And to look at categories as a mental feature, if those categories are absolute, this is the same argument I use for truth and knowledge and everything else, but it applies to categories. The framework of a mind, the framework of a perfect mind.
There is no such thing as perfection. When we use words like better, worse, perfect, imperfect, best, and so on, what we are doing is examining something and comparing it against something else in a particular measure. For example, one might say that Michael Jordan is the best basketball player. I don't know, I don't care about sports. If one says that Mr. Jordan is the best basketball player, what they are actually saying is that he is the best at something, at some standard. He has the most free throw shots, or he has the most half-court shots, or he dribbles the best. There is no objective standard to measure Michael Jordan as perfect. Only things to measure Michael Jordan as perfect at. And even then, categories are nuanced. As you admit yourself, there are subcategories, and I don't think you'd disagree that there are subcategories of subcategories. Hell, it could go on forever. So, when we say a perfect mind, we are inherently leaving out something. A perfect mind at what? What is the mind perfect at performing? At all times, my mind is perfect at performing the function of being my mind. I think it'd be hard to say that's not true. Even if it has some deficiency, it is perfect at having that deficiency to the exact extent it has it.
Would ground universals, particulars, logic, math, meaning, language, mind, information, and it would all be bound and based in something unchanging and perfect, a being, a mind. And so because Christians already assume this, even heterodox might get on board quite quickly with this notion that all is grounded in the mind of God. And when it comes to knowledge and categories and making sense of the world out there, the better we properly categorize things, the better or higher resolution we're going to come to descriptions.
So some of that wasn't a word salad. I agree that the better our categories are at describing reality, the better reality will be described by us. But obviously, we have a fundamental disagreement on this front.
But if you don't accept this, you have to use arbitrary categories. And that's what we see. So when we're talking with these people and we're just like, our mind is blown. My mind was blown yesterday at how ridiculous his defense of evolution was. My mind was blown when I saw Beaver Boy debating that other guy. And of course, it's probably proper and right to say this is a spiritual issue, and it is. But at least to the extent we can examine the mental problem, the intellectual problem, I would say that it is, in many cases, a problem of properly categorizing things. Why? How could you say something's properly categorized if it's not absolutely grounded in something? You know what I mean? It makes sense. If there is no ultimacy to how to properly examine truth, come to truth, properly categorize things, and understand and speak about things, then you can move the categories all around. You can just pick up one category like a block and put it down and put that, and go over here in the corner. It's like a Montessori school. And that's actually what you see in their debates, They think they can talk about knowledge in philosophy epistemology, which is a branch of your worldview, they think they can talk about that stuff without talking about metaphysics or assuming something about metaphysics. They think they can come to the conclusion that God doesn't exist or the position that God doesn't exist without assuming a whole slew of other things that aren't based in that epistemic claim.
So, firstly, you claim that if you don't accept that a God exists, you have to use arbitrary categories. That isn't true. Then you ramble at the camera. Then you say, and I quote, "They think you can come to the position that God doesn't exist without assuming a whole bunch of other things that aren't based on that epistemic claim." I paraphrased a little. But anyway, theism is not the default. Your religion and your beliefs are not the default position. You are not the default thing in the universe. You are not the center of the universe, and you're not some special or super important aspect of this world. You are a monkey on a waterlogged rock flying around a nuclear reactor that orbits around in a vast galaxy, for which, if it could dream, you would never even appear as a background character. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to do anything to not accept your particular claim. Nothing. There's not a single thing I need to do, a single thing I need to assume, a single epistemic or non-epistemic claim I need to make, a single position I need to take, anything to not accept your claim. You seem to feel that your claim is special. You seem to think that you have some kind of essential knowledge. And the ones who don't accept it are just stubborn, or stupid, or evil, or dishonest, or lying to you because your claim is so basic, but that isn't the case. Your claim sounds as absurd as the idea ancient aliens built the pyramids. Your insistence about its correctness is self-blinding. You have become deluded. You need to free yourself of this delusion. Or don't. I'm okay with laughing at your arguments more. It's kind of fun. Mostly sad, but a little fun.
And they're just stuck in it, you know. It's just they're just stuck in the muck, and they're doing something when they debate or they argue. They're doing something that ultimately, from their own view, they have no reason to do. First of all, they don't have a reason to debate. There's no reason to debate. There's no reason to come to truth. There's no reason why we should hold a true belief versus a false belief from an atheist view.
Hey, atheist, you're a nihilist.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. There is no reason for anything without God.
I find meaning in my own life and reasons in my life for my actions. Why isn't this sufficient?
It's not sufficient. You need something more ultimate.
Why?
It's not sufficient. You're a nihilist. There is no meaning without God.
Explain to me why.
There is no meaning without God. You're just rejecting God so you can sin. You're gonna burn in hell. Accept Jesus. Romans 1:20. Cosmological argument.
It's confusing.
No. You were brainwashed into thinking it was confusing so you would be afraid to question the truth of your religion. It is not confusing. You are the one who is confused. You are the one who believes something confusing.
It's contradictory. It's self-refuting. It's useless. It's mindless.
I thought this video was about secular atheism. Why are you describing theistic religion right now?
It's purposeless. They'll agree.
We will do what now? Have you ever actually talked to an atheist? Or when you invite them on your show, do you just yell at them for 20 minutes and hang up? I've never watched your live streams, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And then we ask, well, why you do it? Why do you have a channel? Why do you debate people? Why do you pester Christians? Why do you do any of this? Well, because it's fun.
I see the harm that religion causes, the harm that belief in God causes, the harm that believing you are in touch with the creator of the universe causes, and I desire that it ends. I do my best to fight it, to work towards its end. I don't do it because it's fun. I don't know of any atheist YouTubers who just do it because it's fun. Even if that was the case, it's not some kind of universal truth. I'm going to label this one as strawman and move on. I think that label is apt enough for now, and I don't really care to hear him batter on about how we're nihilists just because we don't believe in his God.
And if you can't make sense of the things you're using to make sense of the material world, why would your view make any sense at all? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. And I'll show you. I'll show you a comment that is, it's so insane, but I'm not surprised. You know, I'm never surprised by these comments, you know. And again, I get frustrated because they never call in. They never call in. They just stay safe. They write their essays, right? They write their essays in the chat, in the comments. They pester in the chat, and then I go, here's the link. Here, I'll read a statement right here from this guy. He says, I use the word mind to describe chemical reactions occurring in the brain. If there is something beyond that does not include the physical brain, then you would have the burden of proof for claiming there is something beyond the brain.
Yes, this is how logic and reasoning works. When you make a claim, you have to back it up with evidence if you want me to believe it. Stop demanding I believe you, and you can do whatever you want. You are befuddled by a basic concept. Why?
They actually type these things out.
Yeah, we do actually type these things out. Because it's the truth.
They're in the performance against what they're saying.
How so? How exactly are we in the performance against what we say? Basically, what you mean is that we are demonstrating we are wrong by the act of saying what we say. Like saying, with your voice, I am mute, is self-contradictory, because you can't be mute and say out loud that you are such. Or, if someone asks you if you're deaf, saying yes would immediately prove you aren't. But I don't understand how this is true of saying that only the mind exists. Unless you can provide a reason that some kind of spirit is needed to have consciousness, this argument basically boils down to, I'm right, now shut up and believe me. No, not happening. Get some evidence and then we'll talk.
They're very active doing so. They're conveying meaning. They're conveying descriptions. They're conveying propositions. They're conveying that they're using the laws of logic.
Hey, atheist, you're a nihilist.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. There is no reason for anything without God.
And they're stringing together utterances with their thumbs at me, at you. And they don't understand. If the mind is merely the thing you're describing chemical reactions, then you need more chemical reactions to describe that chemical reaction, and so on.
Recursion is an essential part of intelligence. Of course, the electricity and chemicals that surge our brain can think about the electricity and chemicals that surge our brain can think about the electricity and chemicals that surge our brain, because if we couldn't, we wouldn't be intelligent. We are operating under such different perspectives, such different ideas of what is and isn't, and why not. It's hard to even have basic conversations. You are operating on assumptions so baked in religion that you seem not to even be able to consider that they aren't true. And I am operating on assumptions so detached from religion that, if I am being honest, I find it sometimes hard to believe that religious people hold the positions they do. And genuinely are confused by what they are confused by. Throughout this video, you have demonstrated and continue to demonstrate a great deal of confusion. For a video focused on how confusing atheism is, you surely do seem to be significantly more confused than I do. Yes, there really is an entire minute of just silence. Just him looking at the camera and shaking his head disapprovingly. That's about half this video. It's painful to watch, to be honest. I don't know how you get any viewership at all. This would be like if I left my character just on screen, saying nothing and showing nothing for no reason for an entire minute. I would try it right now to see what would happen, but I'm worried my viewer retention would plummet and this video would do terribly. I feel like many if not most videos by theists, Christians and Muslims alike, are like this. Most theistic channels really are just dudes or dudettes staring at the camera for 20 minutes and then saying a short little sentence in disbelief. I don't get why the quality of videos from theists is so low, how the bar got so low, but it kind of matches the quality of their arguments, so it's fine.
They don't understand the consequences. But maybe, in addition to the spiritual issue, the failure to know the consequences. Why? Well, once you understand the consequences of a broken view, which is atheism, the alternative is theism, generally, and then more rigorously, Christianity, of course. And then what happens, you guys? Well, then you got to be responsible. Then Beaver Boy has to clean up his room.
We all saw it coming. No, atheists aren't just avoiding responsibility or consequences. Some people realize that they are responsible to other people, and as such, act accordingly, treating other people with love and respect. Other people think they are responsible to some eldritch monster in the sky and act accordingly, either treating other people with love and respect out of obligation, or treating other people terribly because they think that's what the eldritch horror wants them to do. Not all theists are in the second camp. I would say most theists realize they are responsible to other people, even if they think a God exists and that there are obligations to that God. But a disturbingly high number of people are focused on the idea that they must serve a God above all else. It's the classic question. If God came down to you and told you that you have to murder somebody, would you do it? Most theists would answer, God would never do that, because most theists realize that this is wrong. If you push them on the question, I think most would find it hard to say that they would follow this commandment. But there are some people who have no desire even to sidestep the issue, rather choosing to answer simply, yes, if God came down to me and told me to murder someone, I'd pick up a knife and say, who? Still, these types of people are few and far between, and wouldn't be much better as atheists anyway. The point remains, however, that atheists aren't avoiding moral responsibility.
Then all of a sudden you might have some obligation. That suddenly you have some moral weight to your existence. Suddenly you're held to account.
I already know I am held to account. I already know my actions have moral weight. I have obligation to my fellow man. My actions have moral weight for my fellow man. The fact this is not enough for you is quite frankly frightening.
No, we can't have that. Let's stick to confusion.
The only one sticking to confusion here is you.
Let's stick to the confusion. Yeah, let's go with that. And what's annoying is you refute these guys, and it's one book after another. All I could do is ask them to call in, but you know what I get? I get this. I get books!
Now you're just raging at the screen. You're just getting mad towards your camera. Don't worry, I've done that before. I think we all have at one point or another. Sometimes with good points behind it, sometimes not, but we all go through it at some point. But I think for a lot of professional creators, those who have done it for years and get paid, like you, I think most realize when they're doing it and don't upload that video, or cut that part out of the video. It was, really brave of you to include it in your video, though. Very brave.
That's all I get. Books from these people. Ankle biting in the chat, books in the comments.
And just more raging at the camera, yelling at your microphone. Although I do like the term ankle biting. That was a cool inclusion there. Spiced things up.
I also asked this person in the comment, which set of chemical reactions is the mind and which is not the mind? He doesn't answer.
How about, it's all the mind?
And then he says, I never said chemical reaction is the mind. This is why you waste your time with these people. He says, I use the word mind to describe chemical reaction. I never said chemical reaction is the mind.
That does sound like a clear contradiction, but I want to see the full conversation before I implicate this person. Clearly, you are biased against this person, so I don't know how much I can really trust you.
It's like demons who don't care. They're just saying men can have babies, men can have babies. 1 + 1 = pineapple.
How in Satan's basement does men can have babies relate to atheism? Actually how? Explain this to me. I've never said that, and I would never say that. This is a straw man, and I do not appreciate it.
It might as well be fart sounds coming out of their mouth, honestly. And here I am, too charitable. Oh, whoa, he wrote something. Let me read it and understand him.
Well, you did read it. The understanding him part, I don't know about that.
I'm sure we have one in the chat.
What in the chat? Demons? Yeah, I'm right here. I'm always here. Watching you.
The reason atheism leads to confusion, or atheism is confusion, is because there is no unifying truth at all. There's no unifying truth. There's nothing that grounds, stabilizes, or provides any level of absoluteness, ultimacy, objectivity. Nothing. There's nothing.
Yep. Nothing that grounds truth and objectivity. Nothing at all. Except, of course, reality itself. Reality grounds reality. Truth and objectivity are grounded in reality. What is real is real. You don't need something outside of this to ground truth in. Once you can be confident something is real, and why, then you can be confident it's true. You don't need someone from on high to tell you for certain.
They're like, well, can I just use my senses? No, you can't. Your senses don't provide you with the veracity of your evaluation of the senses. Your senses don't give you the veracity of your evaluation. So, nope.
Indeed, your senses don't give you the full story. They can be tricked easily. This is why we have things like the scientific method, reasonable doubt, evidence, philosophy, free thinking, and other such things that allow us to test and corroborate claims without relying on just our senses or on someone to just state something as true.
So the question comes down to, when it comes down to it, it comes down to Pontius Pilate.
What it really, it comes down to, the Bible.
Yeah, the ancient book of Jewish myths and Greek retellings of those myths is best known not for how historically inaccurate and laughably wrong it is, but how well it explains modern atheists' behavior and minds. Now, go ahead, Jimbob. Tell me what I think, because I have no clue what I think. How could I? It's not like I'm me.
And this is what's so beautiful about Christianity, is that the very question, what is truth, posed to Christ and the people around, is really the essence of atheism. The question itself is malformed.
Atheism, the lack of belief in a god or gods, is really about the malformation of the question, what is truth? Really, that's what we're going with. Is the question, what is truth, even malformed? I guess it is in a way. Rather, the question would more accurately be phrased, what things are true? But I know that's not your issue with the question. And, ironically, although you insult monists, you are about to suggest monism yourself. Not monism based on the Tao, or Dharma, or Brahman, or anything like that, but no, monism based on Yahweh, Jesus, and the Spirit. Monism based on the Christian God. You can't insult monism in your video and then go on to describe how you are a monist if you aren't going to acknowledge that you did that. If you acknowledge that you did that, I would give you more leeway. But as it is, you're just the pot talking to the kettle.
It perfectly embodies the view that rejects God. The question itself shows you what is truth, is where they're asking from. What? An object, a description, a set of propositions, an accumulation of data. What? What is truth? And some people run with that, and they become, sort of like pagans, monists. They look at the world it's the aggregate of all things or something like this.
Pagans and monists? Seeking what is true. Do you know what these words mean? First off, there are no pagans. Paganism isn't a thing, it's an old insult slung by Christians to non-Christians. Paganism is actually a rich tapestry of native European religions that are extremely distinct, even within cultures that share a common origin. There are still pagans in the sense that there are people who still worship these religions, but in another sense, there never were any pagans because pagan is just an insult. Secondly, monism is the belief that all is one, either that everything comes from one thing or that everything is really just one thing. For example, I am a monist. I believe that everything just is, for one reason or another, and all distinctions we draw are just separations of what is from what is. A cat and the air molecules around the cat just are. We think you can take the cat and the air molecules as separate, but at any single point in time, the cat and the air molecules are interacting and are, for all intents and purposes, one thing. If I had the ability to magically teleport any object from any place and move it somewhere else, I firmly believe this ability would turn out useless. I would attempt to teleport a glass of water and end up teleporting all the air from that location away too. The counter it's sitting on, maybe the whole house moves into my hand just because I wanted a glass of water. Everything is made of atoms, and atoms are just made of subatomic particles. And when you get down to it, there really is no boundary between two subatomic particles. You're fighting battles with dead religions and yourself. It's completely futile.
That which comports to reality, this is all what is truth. Well, no, the confusion, the reason atheism is confusing is because there is no what that can be truth. Whats are particulars. Truth would need to transcend universals and particulars. Truth would need, as an ontology, need to transcend the one and the many. The problem of the one and the many. It would have to be not only multiplicity, but also unity.
What is truth if not all the things that are true at any given time? If we take a time of X and we analyze Y things, assuming Y things encompass everything, and we find Y things in a state, well, the facts of reality, the truth, is that Y things are in some state at X time. And we do it again, X plus 1 time, Y things. In total, they entered a new state because at least one thing has changed, assumedly. That's what truth is. And I really wish you would just come right out and say it, instead of circling. Your point is that the truth is a who. This who being God. This is monism. You think that God encompasses all things at all times. That's what the statement God is truth actually means. That God encompasses all things at all times. And Christian monism isn't a new thing either. Even C.S. Lewis seemed to think that this was the case. But you're so oblivious to what you're arguing, you don't even realize that's what you're arguing.
It's a who. It's a being. There's no escaping this. Any alternative is going to reduce to some sort of nominal problem. It's going to reduce to some sort of a group of people trying to build up like what they think is true from the bottom up, and then it topples and they restart, right? Or it's going to be a chemical reaction. I've debated people that with a serious face said that truth is a chemical in the mind. Really?
I think it's ridiculous to call truth a chemical in the mind. Although, I have to say, just because you are upset that we can never truly know anything for certain, that doesn't give you the right to say, well, then it must be the way I want it to be. The truth is all that is. There are things and aren't things, and what is true is all the things that are, and what is false is all the things that aren't.
If truth is a chemical in the mind, then that statement is also just a particular and it's not universal.
That's not how it works. You should know that's not how it works. You should know how thinking works. You should know how conversations work and how ideas work and how beliefs work. But you don't. So I'll explain it. Why do I do this to myself? So your rebuttal is that
If the truth is in the mind, and we use the mind to make a statement, the truth is in the mind, then that statement cannot be universal because the mind is a particular.
I shortened up your statement a bit. You said chemical of the mind, but I think we're good to just use this. If it's the mind or the thing the mind produces, I don't think you'll disagree. It's all the same anyway. It's all essentially just the mind. Okay, moving on. The fact that the mind is a particular is irrelevant to the statement.
The truth is in the mind.
The statement has its own truth value beyond its existence coming from a particular mind. The fact its origin rests with a particular is irrelevant to the truth value of the statement. You've already had this explained to you by several people, including Logic and Prophet of Zod, and I know you watched Logic's video at the very least, because I saw you responding to comments on that video. I shouldn't have to explain this. It's a very, very simple concept. Although, I want to make it clear, I don't agree that the truth originates in the mind.
That's how committed these people are to their own insanity, their own demise. They love it. Apparently, they love it. So I'm not confused why atheism leads to this insanity. I'm not confused why atheism leads to spiritual prelest. I'm not confused why atheism leads to this mangled worldview where all the parts don't fit together. I'm not confused at all.
You're projecting your Christianity onto atheism again, Jimbob.
It makes perfect sense.
Christianity? No, it doesn't.
That if you reject God, your knowledge system is going to fall apart. It's going to be a puzzle that doesn't piece together. It's impossible. It's not just that they don't know how to piece it together. They don't even have the puzzle. They're not even the right pieces, and they're trying to like smush them together, and they're trying to carve out a section of the puzzle and smush it in so it fits. Oh, a man can have a baby.
What is the relevance of the idea that men can give birth to the position of atheism? What is the relevance? There is none. It's an irrelevant tangent you're using to rile your Christian audience and demonize the other. I don't think men can give birth. I shouldn't have to keep saying this, seriously, but I do have to keep saying it, so I will. Stop conflating these leftist-type ideas with atheism. They are not the same thing. I can guess that you probably fall into the conservative Christian camp. So, to you, everyone is either right-leaning and Christian or left-leaning and not Christian. But that's not the way the world works. I would like to thank my patrons, who should be on screen now, and I would like to say thank you to everyone who stuck around to the end. This video got unusually philosophical and political, but that's where he wanted to go, so I followed him. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
I'm not confused about this.